Okay. Cool. So now we just gotta adjust the image here. So tonight I thought I will bring you a little bit about Jung. Are you guys familiar with Jung? Kind of. Okay. I'm sure a lot of you heard about him. He was one of the biggest names and researcher of the consciousness, the collective consciousness. He was a lot of the psychology that we study today, a lot of them it's based on his discovery. He was a friend of Freud back then, but they went different way. Jung was a lot more into the spiritual side. Freud was more into the material type of aspect of the mind. But Jung brought so much to us that sometimes we need to go over of his teaching because it's wonderful to know what he brought to the world, okay? So I'm just going to give you today just the foundation of Jung's psychology, okay? Let's go for the introduction to Carl Jung. Analytical psychological foundation. Jung founded analytical psychology, emphasizing understanding both consciousness and unconsciousness mind aspect deeply. So everything that we understand today when it comes to what is, remember that image that everybody saw of an iceberg that says only 10% of you is consciousness, the rest is unconsciousness? That comes from the job of Carl Jung and Freud and the researchers back then that brought us this idea. So he emphasized the understanding of both conscious and unconscious mind aspect deeply. Core Jung concept. He introduced the collective unconsciousness, archetype, and individuation as a key of psychology concept. So Freud brought to us the conscious and the unconscious, and he introduced something else, which is the collective consciousness, which is wonderful because he realized that we do have a consciousness, what is unconscious, but we also have an unconscious, which is collective. And he's going to talk about this by the archetype. We'll see that a little bit further. And broad influence. Jung theories impact psychology, philosophy, spirituality, literally religion studies, and popular culture. So he was huge, okay? Personal growth and integration. He believes psychology health arises from integrating consciousness and unconscious part for the personal growth. So, what can we reflect upon tonight? Have you ever thought about your consciousness and unconsciousness mind? Okay, do you know about this? Like, I think that most of people knows this, but do you recognize it in yourself? No, right? So everything that we learn, we must do a little bit of an effort to realize, like if you like Jung or if you like Freud or if you like anybody else, you would see, let me see if that is true. Do I really have an unconscious and conscious mind? And observe that within yourself, because you will be amazed if you do that. Okay? So let's go. The structure of the psyche. So he's going to say that what is structure us is the ego, what he calls the conscious mind. The ego represents the conscious minds, including thoughts, memories, and emotional, formally personal identity. Forming personal identity. So people sometimes get mad at me when I say, hey, listen, your thoughts come from your ego. And people have a very hard time to understand this. Because we never thought of this. We think that the thought comes from the spirit itself, from the self itself. And the thought comes from the ego. So should we trust the thoughts? Right? If it comes from an ego, if it's not coming from the self, Jung will call the spirit the self. Okay? So we should question the thoughts, because the thought comes from the ego and your memories. Okay? So ego is the conscious mind. And then the personal unconsciousness, the personal unconscious contain forgotten or repressed experience influencing behavior beneath awareness. This is huge. Because here, you know what's going on. Here, you don't. So this is things that you feel, things that you do, that you are unaware of it. Have you seen other people do this and you can see it? Right? So for an example, you've seen a person that is completely unaware of their behavior. So you being rude and the other person says, who, me? No, I'm not rude. Right? So it's a unconsciousness process. And then this contains forgotten. So let's see, if I ask you, can you please bring me a memory when you were 2 years old? And you're going to say, I don't remember. But it's there. It's in the unconsciousness. It's there. And guess what? That experience when you were 2 years old influenced your behavior. It's not because you don't remember that is not driving you. And that's the beauty of the unconscious mind. You don't know, but it's there. You don't recall, but it's there. Okay? And also repress experience. Repress experience is something that you repress so deeply that you don't want to remember. You repress. Okay? And it's also an unconsciousness. So it's right there. And those experiences are, some people go through the whole life without realizing that they went through something in life, that unless they do hypnosis or other or use the other tools available out there, you're not going to know what it is, because it's completely repressed on your unconscious mind. And then you have the collective unconsciousness. The collective unconsciousness is a shared unconscious layer housing universal symbol and archetypes inherited by all humans. So that's good, because we only have our consciousness, our unconscious, we have also a collective consciousness. So, and that is wonderful, because have you ever realized that sometimes we go to experiences and you said, you know why? Everybody goes through that in a life journey. Okay? We have things that we do that everybody else does it. And that is on the archetype. We're going to talk about this a little bit, and it's through the dreams also you can see that. I'm going to give you a few examples later. And then psychological balance, balancing the ego with unconscious insights fosters self-awareness, personal growth, and psychological health. So you have to be able to recognize the ego, recognize, you don't need to know, but you can recognize that certain things are unconsciousness, and recognize the collection's unconsciousness. So when you do this, you have a psychological balance, which is wonderful. So let's talk about the archetypes. Have you heard about this? Anybody? No? Okay. Universal symbolic pattern. Archetypes are universal patterns found in myths, dreams, and culture narrative across all times and places. So let's talk about this, the myths. What myths do you know? Tell me. Myths from the Greek culture. What you guys know? Give me one example. Hercules. What else? Achilles. Medusa. Right?
Yeah.
What else? Zeus. Okay. Morphle. Okay. Those they are universal symbolic pattern. And it's good because when you see the narcissist, it's also a myth of the person, narciso, right? So that's why we name narcissismo. It's a symbolic pattern. What else? He fell in love with what? With his image. He fell in love in his image. And it's so true that, because that can happen to a lot of people, okay? It's a universal symbolic pattern. So that's why we name this condition narcissism, right? Because it comes from that particular symbolic pattern. Do you guys get it? There was other ones. No? There is one from Icaro, right? That he goes up in the sky, and then, yes, this all has a symbolic meaning from the collected minds, okay? And it's wonderful because we play a lot of these archetypes in our lives, but we are not aware of them. Okay? And also dreams. He was huge in dreams, like trying to see, according to Jung, the dream is the unconscious mind trying to talk to you, trying to tell you something that you don't know. And every time you go in and you have a dream and you interpret that dream, guess what? It's not. Because it's for something that you don't know. If you already know, you have no idea what the dream meant to you. Because it's to bring something that is unconscious to you to become consciousness. And that's what the dreams, that's why we dream. Okay? All right. And also, dreams are full of symbolism. Symbolism. Why? Because the unconscious mind does not have a particular language. So it uses symbolism, right? So for an example, I get a lot of people that tell me, Yonara, I have this dream. I dreamed that I was in this place with you. I dream with you. I dream. A lot of people tell me this. But I say, oh, that's nice. I'm not going to explain, but it probably wasn't me. But the image that I represent for that person, that's what it means. So if you dream about your husband or your wife, it might be the feminine part or the masculine part of your unconscious mind trying to balance himself or trying to tell you something. So dreams are very interested, very, very interested, but you have to know how to interpret. And he was a genius when it comes to this, how to interpret. Because you say, Yonara, my dreams are crazy. I dream about a chair. But you have to ask yourself, what does a chair mean to me? And then when you get the meaning of the chair and the meaning of the other object, you might figure it out what the unconscious mind is telling you. So cultural narrative, those little stories that we hear, right? All over again when we were a kid, that it's also part of these archetypes. Key Jung archetypes. Jung identified archetypes like the hero, mother, shadow, animals, and self. Each symbolize essential human experience. So we all play this one here. The archetypes of the hero. The hero is somebody that goes through life trying to save yourself and save others. It's the person that is always trying to save the mother, save the kids, save the country, and then after a while, why? Because they want to be recognized as a hero in their own journey and their own life. And we have to be very careful with this archetype, because it's all about being special in life. And everybody wants to be special these days. Not as special as a superstar, but just special. So you wanted to be the hero on your own journey. If you want to write a book, who's going to be the hero? Probably you. You want to be the hero. Why? Because you are under the influence of these archetypes when it's called the hero. And the hero, when we are drawn by this archetype, it has a good side of the hero, and it also has a bad side of the hero. Okay, when that makes you sick because you can't be the hero, you can't do anything right, but the hero archetype is judging you all the time and is telling you, oh, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that. That's the hero archetypes actually sending you thoughts. And when you are aware of this, Jung will say that it's a very famous phrase of Jung, say that everything that happens to you unconsciously, which means you have no awareness of, you're always going to think that this is destiny to you. But when you become aware, and when we become consciousness of the things that is going on within you, then you will see that that has nothing to do with destiny. Okay, so this had to happen. No, it didn't have to happen. Okay, so Another archetype that is fascinating is the mother. The mother archetype. This is sometimes when a woman gives birth, all right, they forget about everything else and become the mother. Okay? And they forget that they are not only the mothers, but it's also a wife, it's also a sister, it's also a woman, it's also a friend. No, but not. This archetype, when a person goes to the influence of this archetype, it becomes a mother, but it kind of like a super, hyper protective of their kids, which is not healthy at all. Mothers that goes to these archetypes usually do not allow their own kids to grow. You know the helicopter mom? Have you heard about that expression? That has a lot to do with this archetype, the mother archetype. And then the person becomes a grandmother, and then is playing the same thing as the mother, and they don't do anything else with their lives. It's very sad. It's very, very sad. Because they don't do anything else other than being a mother. And then they want to be a mother, you know, it could be a mother of everybody else. So you don't realize the cycle of life, that you have kids, you take care of them when they are young, and then they go in, eventually they're going to live their own lives, and you keep being a woman. You keep being a human being, and you don't have to be a mother 24 hours a day for the rest of your lives. Only that, only the mother. The shadow is another archetype. The shadow, it's something that you cannot see in your behavior. And then we have the anima and animus, which is very interesting. This is your feminine part and masculine part. Jung will say that you have this both energy within you. One is masculine, one is feminine, and then your job is to integrate this both energy within you. I don't care if you're a woman or if you are a man, you still have both energy within you. And it's wonderful what he says when this energy is not well balanced. Is when women try to be too rational like a man. You know, women are usually more emotional, more caring, but when the masculine energy is way too high, woman can become very logical, like a man. And woman can become very opinionated. You know, they know everything, you know, and they wanted to make sure that the whole world knows that they know. And it's a psychological process that happens. And the same thing with men. You know, when the feminine energy, that man becomes too emotional, too to the size of the feminine energy, and it sometimes, when this happens to a man, according to Jung, you lose the capability to find a job, for an example, because you have no masculine energy on you. And the energy that makes you move and do things, it's a masculine energy. So as a woman, we do have them, okay? The men usually have a little bit more than the woman, but it can also happen otherwise in both scenarios. And when that happens, you put, for an example, you see a woman that cries all the time, that you cannot say anything to that woman, that the first thing she does is cry. It's the energy of the anima that it's way too much and is controlling that person, okay? So it's very interesting. And then the self is the deep, real you. Jung will give that the call of self, each symbolizing essential human experience. And then we have psychological influence. Archetypes influence emotional thoughts and behaviors, guiding response to life and supporting psychological balance. And then we have this wonderful process that he called individuation. It's a core concept of individuation. Individuation is the lifelong journey to becoming one's authentic self by integrating conscious and unconscious psychic parts. Psychic. How do you say that in English? Psyche, right? Psique, a gente fala em português. Psique, we say in Portuguese. Okay, so finding your authentic self. This is the journey for all of you, all of us. There is no one like you in a certain way, but what you're doing with your life is you're living a life that society wants you to live. You live in a life that little child within you created, but not your unique self, okay? And the journey is to find yourself. That's what he calls individuation. Shadow integration, confronting and embracing the shadow is essential for achieving psychological wholeness and spiritual awakening. Shadow is that thing in you that you cannot see. Okay? That behavior, that, let's see for example that you are a very selfish person. Okay? You are selfish. Your husband, your wife, your sister, your friends, the center, everybody can see that. But you can't. It's hiding in your shadow. And you make sure that you don't see it. That's why it's called the shadow. But it's right there all the time. But you cannot see it. And see it, okay? Confronting and embracing the shadow is not to be judgmental with yourself. It's to see that part of you, that dark part of you that you think that you don't have, but you do have it. Okay? So it's difficult. It's very difficult to see you and to accept it and to embrace it and see this as a part of the human experience. And we all have the light side and the dark side. And Jung used to say that. He said, human beings are capable of wonderful things, but it's also capable of horrible things. Because we do have this side inside, within us. So, guess who is the crowd that refused to see the shadow? The most difficult crowd. Religious people. Okay? Because they think that they are saints. Because they come to the center, or because they speak, or they are a medium, or because they know all about spirituality, and they think that they don't have shadow because of that. The question that I have for you is this: do you see your shadow? Only other people can see, right? But if you search within you, you're gonna see the part of you are selfish, part of you are jealous, part of you envy other people, okay? So, but you don't recognize. So, you probably envy someone's life, you probably envy somebody, but envy, it became so ugly in religions that makes it very hard for you to realize that, listen, I envy that person, okay? And then that's what a shadow is. And that becomes what? An emotion that you repress within you. It's human, okay? It's just like people that say, I'm never angry. What? Everybody gets angry. Everybody gets angry. You might not show your anger. You can repress it. That is so horrible for your health, but you can do that. You can repress and say, no, I do not get angry. Who, me? No. So, embracing and confronting the shadow is part of your psychological balance. So you must see it. So that's why sometimes I was like, listen, pay attention of what your husband, your wife, your sister are telling you, because it's probably true. And you cannot see it, okay? Just examine it without any judgment, just to embrace. Self-actualization and wholeness, individual, enable self-actualization by helping individual realize full potential and align with inner truth. Holistic mental health, modern mental health practice, use individuation principles emphasizing self-awareness, acceptance, and true nature alignment. So a lot of the holistic mental health came from Jung. A lot of people don't know that, but he was the number one on that. So let's go talk about the shadow. Unconscious aspect, the shadow holds suppressed emotions and traits, including anger, jealousy, and untapped creativity. Okay? And one of the things that we don't realize is that unless we do this work, we will not be creative at all. Sometimes we have a block that blocks us from being creative, and we have no idea why. And then most of the times it's through a repressed system that we repress things all the time. That takes away our creativity. Personal growth through integration, confronting and integrating the shadow fosters healing, self-awareness, and emotional release. That's super important. But if you're gonna do this, judging yourself, then don't do it. Because it has to be done through acceptance and embracing. And realize that it's not negative or positive. This is just the way nature works. Energy healing connection, embracing the shadow aligns with energy healing practices that harmonize mind, body, and the spirit. So how many times do we want to be here, and feel all the energy, all the healing, everything, but we can't because the shadow is still unconscious to us. So recognizing our own shadows is essential in life. It's not something that you do to be good. Do you understand that? It's not something that you're going to be able to do it so you go to heaven. That's something that you do so you go to Nossa Casa. No. You do it because it has energy healing and you harmonize mind, body, and spirit. So this is a very important concept. There is a documentary that calls The Shadow. It's an hour and 15 minutes. I recommend you to watch. It talks about the shadow, and the shadow only, okay? How this plays a huge influence in our lives. And then he talks about synchronicity and dreams. When this is when something happens that you think that it's a coincidence, but it's beyond logical explanation, like maybe finding the true love at first time that you cannot explain, but I don't know why. I look at that person was right there and that time, and something happens. He calls this synchronicity. What a difficult word to pronounce. Universal energy influence. Synchronicity reflects the influence of universal energy guiding personal development and life events. Dreams as unconsciousness language. Dreams provide symbolic insight from the unconsciousness, aiding the personal challenges and self-discovery. So, through dreams, you can do some self-recovery. Have you ever heard about the dream journey? It's like every time you dream, you open a journey and you write everything. And you put a date on, and you live it, okay? And I used to do that, and every single day. And I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I was going to my dreams, reading, and I was like, oh man. And see how I can figure it out back then and what happens to me in my life. And I found, because dreams can also work, you can predict something to dreams. It's not always that, okay? Jung would say almost only 5% of that happens when you can actually dream about something that is going to happen. But even that dream about something that's going to happen to you comes in a symbolic language. It's not clear at all. So you have to figure it out. And by looking into that and trying to interpret my old dreams to see if I realized anything today that was completely unconscious to me back then, I realized that in one of my dreams, it was telling me something about my father's death. And when I read it, I was like, when is this? When is this? Because it was clear to me that this was saying that my dad was going to pass away. And within 6 months, he did die. But when the dream happened to me, I had no idea, you know? And I read to more than 60 dreams before I reached that one. But that one was so clear to me that that was going to happen. So dreams are very important. I reckon, and it's so good. If you can interpret right now, keep writing and go back year later and read it again. You might find it fascinating, because that has everything to do with self-discovery. And dream interpretation important. Understanding symbolic dreams contact is essential for psychological and spiritual growth and Jung psychology. So that's why every time you go to a psychoanalysis, they will ask you, what did you dream? And you have to tell them, because they work with the dream to help you figure out something that it's totally unconscious to you. And then he also talks about, we won't have time to do this, but he also talks about personality types, Are you an introversion or extroversion? That's from Jung. Introverts are introspective and reserved, while extroverts are outgoing and assertive in social interaction. So some people are introverts, some people are extroverts. Psychological functions, the functions of thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuition define different psychological personality types. Myers-Briggs Foundation, it was found in Jung works. So just like the Enneagram, you know, but it tells you a different type of personality. If you guys want to research that it's a good personality type to find out what kind of person you are, at least your personality. Impact on psychology, Jung works remain influential in clinical psychology and personal development for understanding behavior and preference. You know, let me see if I can talk about this maybe. Spirituality and the psyche. How do you say that in English, Roberta? Psychic. In Portuguese we say psique. And psique. Okay. Innate need for meaning. The human psyche inherently seeks meaningful connection closely linked to spiritual experience beyond doctrines. Have you guys heard about the AA, Alcoholics Anonymous? That was based in Jung. If you read the history of that, why do we pray? Why we have the 12 steps? Because according to Jung, if you don't have a meaningful connection, you feel empty. And when you feel empty, you're going to use alcohol. Okay? So all the 12 steps that the person that actually traveled to Europe spoke to Jung, and Jung said the person that is abusing any drugs is because they are missing our connection, a spiritual experience within themselves. Okay, so that's why they pray before they started, because you need a connection to spirituality. Spiritual dimension exploration of alchemy. I gave a speech about this, remember, Renato, on Monday, Gnostics. Yeah, Jung found a lot of things based on Gnostics. Eastern philosopher reviewed the psyche's quest for transformation and awakening. Everything that he did was for transformation and awakening. Holistic mental health, integration of mind, body, and spirit is central to holistic mental health and Jung's view of psyche. Connection to the universe. Look at this guy talking about. Look how important he was. Individuals are encouraged to find purpose and connect with universal energy through spiritual awareness. Okay? So, and they said if you don't find the purpose and connect with universal energy, that's what Jung was saying, a lot of things can happen to you. A huge emptiness. That's why we usually say to people, come to meditation, come to the center, be part of the community, because you need a purpose. Otherwise, and that purpose is a connection to the universe. Can we pay attention to this? We're looking for a connection to the universe, to nature, not only to animals. Some people will love animals and hate people. There's a lot of people like that, right? Oh, I love the animals, but I hate people. That's not true connection, right? We want it to be a whole. We want to love the animals, respect the animals, love people. We want to be seen ourselves as a cosmo entity. And there is so much more than ourselves. That's what we're looking for, and that's what he did. So, Legacy and impact, psychological foundation. Jung's concept, like the collective unconscious and archetype, remains central to modern psychotherapy and personality theory. Influence beyond psychology, his ideas have influenced literature, art, and spiritual practice, emphasizing deep human insight and universality. Personal growth and transformation. Jung emphasized self-discovery, integration, and spiritual connection as keys to personal growth and transformation. So this guy was just amazing. So this is inner healing and growth, embracing the whole self, spiritual and universal connection, legacy of transformation. Everything that we dream about. So if you read his books, you will find a lot of things that it can actually help you in this journey. His work was just fantastic. Fantastic. It's our job to use it, to read something that is not related to social media. Okay? We spend so much time in social media, and we can be maybe reading in one of his books. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to bring you a lot of awareness. All right, guys, any questions about Jung? No? We cannot talk about Jung in 45 minutes. That's impossible. Okay, I can give you a little hints. Like I gave I gave a seminar here at the center about dreams, how to interpret dreams according to Jung. And we did like the whole day, and it was not even enough. The other, later I did the same workshop about the archetypes. It was the whole day, and it was not enough for people to grasp the idea, to understand him. So you cannot study Jung towards one speech. My intention here is to bring you guys the curiosity, so maybe you get a book, maybe you get a podcast that talks about him, maybe you do something, because what he did to us was amazing, I'm telling you. And it may take your whole life to understand him, but if you do it, it's completely worth it. Okay? All right.